Hi, I'm Margaret, and I'm here to talk to you about Constructivism for ED 307. Constructivism is a learning theory that refers to the idea that each learner individually constructs meaning and knowledge for themselves from our own experiences. It is important in the classroom that we teach in a way that allows students to form construction, their own meaning and interpretation of the material being studied. Jean Piaget, the founder of Constructivism, believed that child's play had an important role in learning. It is his theories and how he applied them that have shaped the foundation of Constructivism education. Other contributors was Vygotsky. He believed that knowledge was first constructed in a social content and collaboration with individuals and within a group. John Dewey, on the other hand, rejected the notion that schools should focus on repetition and memorization. Instead, he proposed a method of direct learning in which students would engage in real-life workshops in which they would demonstrate their knowledge through creativity and collaboration. Students should be provided the opportunity to think for themselves and articulate their thoughts. It is Dewey that has fundamentally changed the approach to teaching and learning. By the 1980s, the research of Dewey and Vygotsky had blended with Piaget's work. And basically, they knew that students learned by doing rather than observing. The students would bring prior knowledge into a learning situation in which they must critique and reevaluate the understanding of what they were learning. The process was interpretation, articulation, and reevaluation. And it is repeated until the student can demonstrate the comprehension of the subject. Constructivism and traditional classroom differ quite a bit, and I'm going to address those with you. In the Constructivism classroom, the curriculum emphasizes big concepts with brain-friendly teaching. The focus tends to shift from the teacher to the student. The classroom is no longer a place where the teacher pours knowledge into the passive student who waits like an empty vessel to be filled. Students are urged to actively be involved in their own process of learning. Meaning is personal and unique. Skills of higher order thinking need to be taught along with the content with a variety of activities and authentic tasks. They are to be set in context and relate to the real world. Learning should involve activities to process the new material and link it to what the student already knows. The teachers function more as a facilitator, a coach, a mentor that promotes, prompts, motivates, engages, asks good questions, helps students develop and assess their understanding. Teachers teach by asking questions of higher order, diagnostic questions that lead to more questions. Material includes a variety of multi-sensor resources and manipulative material. Learning is interactive, built on what the student already knows, and is enhanced by a challenge. Students' learning will involve errors, and the task should offer opportunities for self-assessment, correction, peer discussion, teacher feedback, and a reality check. Process is as important as the product, and students primarily work in groups. The traditional classroom adheres to a fixed curriculum and emphasizes basic skills. Knowledge is just stuff. The mind is a vessel, learning is stored stuff. You can acquire knowledge by being there. God, I wish. And teachers' role is direct, rooted in authority. They disseminate information to the students, and the students are recipients of the knowledge. The materials used are primarily textbooks and workbooks, and learning is based on repetition. Students work primarily alone. Assessment is stock-taking through testing and having the correct answers. What is the PAR model of learning? I'm going to let you know and how it relates to Constructivism. Learning and teaching involves three phases: present, apply, and review. This model emphasizes that students take more responsibility for their own learning and that the teacher becomes more of a facilitator. The PAR model is based on the theory of Constructivism and is based on the work of Piaget. Stage 1 is present. The purpose of this stage is to present new material, orient the learner to recall and check prior learning. This provides a structure for the new learning, and you build on what the student already knows. This involves prioritizing the content, stressing the vital principles, concepts, and key points. Also, you have to set goals and objectives and explain the goal and the activity. This will motivate the learner, explain the purpose and the value of the learning, and this gives the student a sense of belief that they can tackle the goal. Methods in this stage: teacher talk, question and answers, videos, other visual aids, and reading written material, peer explanations. The next stage is apply. In this stage, we apply the new learning in a student activity, and we require them to apply the material that is presented. We learn by doing. Examples in this stage would be questions and answers, examples, activities, worksheets, and problems solved. The apply phase makes learning visible to the student, and the teacher is able to make corrections on errors if needed. Stage 3 is review. In this stage, we review the skills learned and we reflect. Key points are confirmed, emphasized with explanation. This will facilitate recall for the student. The student confirms that their concepts are correct and link with prior learning, prior knowledge, and correct errors and deficiencies in their learning. Now, in reference to my scenario, the PAR model is ideal for college classes like we are taking at Athens State. I think the PAR model could be pretty much adapted to most classes. During my field experience, I witnessed the PAR being used for punctuation and the use of commas. If you want to learn how to ride a bike, you don't pick up a book on the theory of how to ride a bike. You actually get on the bike and you practice until you get it right. It is the hands-on practice coupled with the falling off of the bike, correcting the errors that lead you to be able to ride the bike. The PAR, I think, would work perfectly with the concept of rolling dice for adding, subtracting, and using prime numbers. Children appear to grasp a little bit better when they have a handful of beans or some type of manipulative. Starting with counting the beans, the child would go from that step to adding, subtracting, recognizing multiplication tables, columns, and rows. The key would be for the student to visualize what is going on. And by presenting to the student very clear objectives, they can learn what they're going to learn that day. Explaining those objectives as a whole, explaining the goals and the activities, reviewing any learning of the last lesson and going over any homework if they're not small children. This review would consolidate former learning and ensure students can link the new material in the lesson to previous. By demonstrating and modeling the content, using concrete examples from the students' lives to create examples. And my example would be how many Pokemon cards the student has after they have traded. If my student has traded one Pikachu card for 3 others and a couple of trainer cards, how many would they have after the trade? The desired skills are demonstrated. You count beans or Pokemon cards, adding and subtracting. The teacher would write an example on the whiteboard for the class to think out loud, to explain and justify the method, and then you stress the process and the product. This is by doing detail. You would check the students with questions and answers. You'd ask the class to do 1 or 2 problems with you. I have 64 Pokemon cards. I trade 1 for 3 with Joey, and then I trade 4 for 1 Pikachu from Billy. How many do I have at the end of the day? Write a problem on the board. You ask for volunteers and select individuals to help answer. This would be, how do we do this? The question is done by bits and bits of the students contributing. Note that you ask the questions, what method, why do we do, and how do we do. At any time, if question and answer sessions show that the class as a whole needs more time to practice, then you allow that. But at this point, you would then reinstate the activity, the process, and you would the apply stage would kick in. The students would work in pairs to apply the concepts and skills presented in the lesson, and this would aid the transition from demonstration into the independent practice. This would you would be able to see that the students were on task, and the teacher could check the students' work by walking around and seeing if the students were working in pairs, counting beans or cards, and discussing. This would reduce the chance of the students practicing errors, and this would that you would have to correct later. The controlled practice provides an easy transition to individual work. The students would carry out an activity that requires them to apply the material, and they would learn by doing. This would be later facilitated by self-assessment, self-checks, peer explanations, the jigsaw method, feedback from the teacher, and of course the reality check. The apply phase makes learning visible to the student, and the teacher is able to correct and improve any of the mistakes that they might be making. And next you would review. The key points are confirmed and emphasized, and explanations are linked to the new learning and the new learning. This strengthens the link that they will be able to use in subsequent recall. The students confirm that the concepts are correct, and they link with prior knowledge. They correct errors, and we are ready to go on to the next lesson and trade some more Pikachu cards.